paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, it's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Brainstorm Brewery. This is a very special episode because first episode of 2022, Jason and I have finally done it. We have ridden ourselves of one Douglas Johnson. All it took was for, as his doctor put it, a small explosion to go off in his knee, if I understand the events that led to him tearing his MCL and his ACL. So I did, listeners at home, I know you're worried about DJ. Look, he's fine. And I did let him know that if he had an immune system as strong as mine, this wouldn't have happened to him.
He was doing the milk crate challenge, but he begged us not to tell people that he was doing a stupid meme from 6 months ago and hurt himself. But he's going to say he was rock climbing. He was not. He was doing the milk crate challenge.
He wanted to prove that he was better at it than me, but all he really did was tear his MCL and his ACL. So regardless, no DJ this week. Hope he gets better. You've got me, you've got Jason, and you've got our guest this week, one Magic Pro League member, Chris Botelho. Chris, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hey, it's going pretty well. Thanks for having me.
How's your MCL feel?
I'm going to go with I can't feel it, and that's probably the way I like it.
Yeah.
Someone's turned 30. I recognize that. I actually don't know how old you are, but I know that when I turned, I think it was 31, that was when everything in my body just started hurting every day.
I have precious few months left before 30, and I am cherishing them.
Well, it's coming early for you.
That's when you start to get ear hair. Your 30th
Is that
birthday,
the thing?
You get your first ear hair.
That's what you were concerned about on your 30th birthday. Do you even remember that, Jason?
Don't remember what.
Like that far back?
I mean, I found out on my 30th birthday that I knocked my wife up. So, yeah, I was very concerned with the ear hair.
Okay, great.
And also the consequences of my irresponsible lifestyle.
And the continuation of it. For those who don't know, Jason has, of course, 2 children, and he is a stay-at-home dad most of the time, and he loves it. Don't let him tell you otherwise.
Don't call my kids it. Jeez, dude. That's messed up. I'm just kidding. That implies I love my children.
Anyways, well, welcome in, everybody. Chris, can you let people know real quick where they can find you across the internet and what they might see you doing when they do seek you out?
All right. Well, I can be found on Twitter at cbotelhomagic. And I suppose I should say it is spelled Botelho. I can be found on Twitch at Chris Botelho. And just recently on YouTube, also at Chris Botelho.
The full content creation suite? Love it.
Yeah,
I
trying to see if I can manage all of it.
Oh, that's a good point.
You got to be on TikTok. In fact, TikTok is the only thing you need to be on, really.
I think I'm too old to be allowed into TikTok.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too.
Nope, not for a couple more months. When you turn 30, they look at you like...
Okay.
You open up the TikTok app and something just shouts at you. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
After that, if you're on TikTok after 30, you might as well be in a gymboree with your pants around your ankles.
Got it. So a couple more months before it self-destructs my phone. All right. I should take advantage of that.
Yeah, enjoy the TikTok.
The clock is ticking and talking.
Wow. Well, let's talk about, I know you recently had some exciting news for your stream. You're somebody who's really, for those who don't know, I first met Chris back on the GP circuit when he was tearing up tournaments with really rogue brews. It was an awesome thing for coverage back when that was a thing that existed, and we got to do. So since then, you've found your way into not just doing well at that level, but doing well at the what amounts, for our current pro leagues, as well as the stream. So tell us what the last couple years of of Magic's been like from your perspective.
Yeah, the last couple of years for Magic for me have been quite the wild roller coaster. I have been playing Magic for a number of years now, just grinding Grand Prix because that's something I really enjoy. And then about 2.5, 3 years ago now, I found out that doing the Magic Arena qualifier weekends, desperately trying to get back into the Pro Tour, I somehow kept failing just close enough to success that I topped the leaderboards and got an invite to Rivals League without having won a single one of the weekends. And from there, playing through Rivals League last year, also somehow did consistently well enough at that to make it into the MPL gauntlet at the end of the year, and somehow, once again, without really my understanding, did well enough at that to make it into the MPL.
Look, I love this story because, well, I'll say I love it and it makes me sad at the same time because that is the, from a coverage perspective, that's just the perfect story, right? Like, it's just amazing. You were somebody who the system worked for in this sense that you set a goal and you worked towards it and you weren't able to do well on one of those weekends, but the system actually by that point had some fallbacks built in, and it wasn't just this hard cut where it's like, screw you, you're off. Like when they originally created the MPL, they actually have that on ramp, and you've been able to follow it all the way up to the top, right? I mean, that's what the system was supposed to do. That's the entire aspirational aspect of Magic play. So I have to say I've enjoyed seeing you go all the way over to where you're at now.
I've enjoyed the ride too, and I totally agree. There was this 1 year period where they had this ongoing system where you could manage to make it into these extra slots in the Rivals League based on your performance in what are essentially open qualification events, and you didn't need to spike any particular one. And that was what everybody wanted, and there was like 1 year where it existed. And a lot of people, I think, didn't even realize that was how the system worked that 1 year.
Yeah, that was the year we got Rona'd, because I also thought there was a beautiful moment of time where they had recovered from sort of the disaster of the MPL launch in the way that the MPL created haves and have-nots, and the vast majority of players were have-nots, even at the top levels of play. There was a brief moment there where they even had fractional invites for paper play lined up. They had a whole system that I think would have worked pretty well, and then between Rona and I guess the desire to make more money without having coverage, there's no longer going to be pro leagues and moving forward. So we'll see where it goes. So what does that mean for you though? So you're somebody who you're not someone who's sort of been like at the top of the Magic world for 10 years, just making your living off of being one of the best 15 players in the world. What does the future look like for you? Are you enjoying the streaming aspect of things, or where does content creation go?
I really am enjoying the streaming aspect. And you're right that the MPL going away after this year kind of leaves me in a weird spot, because I've somehow got to essentially the top of professional play right now. But 2 years ago, I was just a person who had never even made it to the Bronze Pro level. I was just flying around to Grand Prix because I liked it. So in a way, it feels kind of like I've been living these last 2 years of a strange, dreamlike, no way this is actually happening.
Yeah, kind of on borrowed time.
I'm kind of just going back to,
yeah,
okay, well, maybe that didn't actually happen. But what has been going on in the last 2 years that isn't going away for me is that I've been doing a bunch of streaming, and I've been starting to branch out content production in other ways. And I really, really have enjoyed streaming for a long time. Before I got anywhere with actual professional Magic, I found that streaming was the most enjoyable way for me to play Magic, because there's a concept I like to kind of liken it to of rubber ducky programming, which is the idea that you can be trying to write code for hours and nothing works, and it's so frustrating. And the process of taking a little rubber duck and trying to explain your code out loud to this little inanimate object makes everything make sense, because slowing down and talking it out loud just triggers something that you were glossing over before.
I've not heard this before. This sounds like something. For those who don't know, we do after hours for this show. This sounds like something Jason would throw at us in after hours. I haven't heard that before, but hey, I guess that makes sense, right?
Yeah, and streaming Magic for me has been pretty much the same kind of deal. Talking through thought processes out loud has helped me improve at Magic way faster than I ever did working on my own. And other people might say that having chat to backseat is not helpful, but if I can tell 9 out of 10 times when people suggest something that isn't right immediately, but the 1 out of 10 times it's something I missed, that's a lot faster rate of improvement than just only catching the things that I catch, which on the whole of things is a lot less often.
Yeah, but how
than
do you
chat.
know it's the right line until you do it? I would say, right? Like, how do you know chat's actually right that 10% of the time?
Well, the thing is, if they point out something that you hadn't even considered,
oh yeah,
it doesn't really matter whether they're right or not. You know,
Right.
I would be so distracted
It's
by backseating.
yeah.
You got to be so confident in your game because you have to just trust yourself to ultimately make the right decision, because you're gonna have that knee-jerk reaction when they say something, and how you feel is usually how you end up going, just because your brain makes itself up. I was gonna say your brain makes its mind up. But your brain just it just decides, and then all your subsequent thoughts are you rationalizing the decision you've already made. Like, everybody's brain doesn't work the way they think it is, and it's really weird and complicated. Yeah. So I can't imagine. You'd have to be so confident in your abilities to allow for the possibility that somebody's saying something you didn't think of. Well,
look, I just go the other way. Chris uses Twitch chat to get better and improve at Magic and, glean some value from it. When I did content regularly, video content, I just leaned into being terrible. It's so much more freeing. If you just don't worry about ever making the right play.
Then when you make the wrong play, of RNG, then nothing.
I did it for the content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
did it for the content. It's like my favorite line of this decade. Just it doesn't matter if you f up. Did it for the content.
As long as you didn't put 20 tons of dry ice in a swimming pool and asphyxiate, what you did for the content was not as bad.
That a thing?
Yeah, it was this Russian influencer. I don't think it was 20 tons. I think it was 20 pounds. I was way exaggerating. But yeah, it turns out you can't put a bunch of dry ice in a swimming pool and then jump in that pool. Because then there's this
dry
gas.
Ice is not a... Wait. Is dry ice even a liquid?
It is a solid that sublimates to carbon dioxide, which displaces the oxygen in the room. So in a confined space.
So I get that if you jump into a pool, you're gonna die.
Well, when you get out,
right?
all of the denser carbon dioxide is displaced the less dense O2.
When you jump in, you can't breathe.
When you get out, you can't breathe. When you jump in, but then you can breathe when you jump in, and then you can't breathe when you get out, and that's what happened.
The whole room winds up filled with carbon dioxide gas, so no oxygen to breathe, whether you're underwater or not.
Yeah.
Unlucky. Well, okay. DJ, if that makes you feel better, buddy.
Yeah.
You didn't do that. All you did was tear your MCL and ACL.
Explode your knee and end your parkour career forever.
DJ had the doctor. DJ was kind enough to appreciate. Look, DJ's in a good enough mindset to appreciate that it was objectively funny that the doctor told him a bomb had gone off in his knee.
Yeah, it's called codeine, and it makes a lot of things objectively funny. Subjectively funny also.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things that are objectively great, it's time for Breaking Bolt.
Breaking Bolt time. Breaking Bolt time. Break.
Oh, yeah, Breaking Bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking Bulk. The end.
That was objectively a bad segue. That was objectively jarring.
I mean, but look, objectively speaking, of course, isn't bad only determined by what it's sort of surrounded by. So it's very possible that was actually in the top half of my segues, and therefore is, by definition,
The valedictorian at summer school.
A good
Yep.
segue. Anyways, just saying, I have a multicolored uncommon from Kaldheim.
Kaldheim.
I
A
don't think y'all are
multicolored
gonna-
uncommon?
And I don't think y'all are going to get it.
What are the colors?
This life would be easier if I drafted that set more than once.
Drafting's
is
all
it
I
in-
do on Arena. So draft and play Merfolk and Historic. So I'm good with these recent sets.
So it's there was a cycle. There are 10 two-color uncommon legendary creatures to choose from. Is it one of them?
Nope.
Is it an enchantment?
It is.
Is it a
Is it-
saga?
Nope.
What?
Oh,
Not binding the old gods. Sorry.
all right.
It's not any
that's where
saga,
I was
though.
going.
It's not any saga.
So it's not one of the two 10-card cycles. So you're telling me there was a
I-
21st gold uncommon in Kaldheim?
And it's an enchantment. You know that as well. I told you.
I didn't know there were any enchantments in that set that weren't sagas.
I'm Sog not gonna get this. Is it the angel thing?
It is the angel thing. I guess we'll give you credit for
I don't
that.
know
It's
what
Rampage.
I don't know the name of it or what it does, but I know that it involves 4 angel tokens.
It's something like that, yes. Rampage of the Valkyries.
Oh,
It's a 5 enchantment, black, white, and 3 generic. When it enters battlefield, you make a 4/4 with flying and vigilance. Whenever an angel you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature.
You remember 5 mana got you a Sarah Angel, not a Sarah Angel and a Grave Pact?
Sarah Angel in a Great Pack, though, is a pretty cool card.
Remember when
I
5 mana
have
got
to
you a
say,
Sarah
this
Angel
card
and
is
the
neat.
card was so good they didn't put it in 5th edition because it was warping the format?
I mean,
Remember
I don't
Sarah
remember
Angel
that,
warped
but
the format?
nobody remembers that but you.
what packs did that come out of? Because that wasn't in the actual draft booster packs, was it? That was like in those color.
It's possible that
Unicorns?
it's in... Look, it's impossible to know.
Yeah.
Uh,
We're not going to know
It's
a
just
year
actually
later.
impossible to know. Like, maybe it was just in set boosters. I don't know. I just know that, it's... if you're going to find any of these, it's going to be in your Kaldheim bulk, right? It is
Right.
possible that this was not in the draft boosters, so this might have been a set booster or a commander card, Kaldheim commander. I don't know. No one knows. That's
It's
the best
impossible
part
to
about
keep track
Magic
of
these
anything
days.
anymore.
Yeah, and there's 20 different versions. We don't even try. Speaking of, with a little break here, intermission before we move on to the next one. But did you know you can get astrology basic lands from Wizards of the Coast now? Officially.
Yeah, and if I were a stupid Leo, I would probably think that was pretty cool, but I'm not.
Hey, that's my son's name. Come on.
Well, that's why I qualified it, because he's not one of the stupid Leos.
Yeah, we named him after the second best Ninja Turtle. So, anyways, Rampage of the Valkyries. That's what I got. Jason, go ahead.
I'm just thrown by the fact you think Leonardo is not the 4th best Ninja Turtle. He's a scold, man. That's why you like him. All right, what do we got here? This is a card
Dude,
from...
you're insane.
What? Huh?
Objectively wrong about Ninja Turtles, but that's okay. Go on. The name of this episode is Jason is a...
You are objectively not going to get this. Rise of the Eldrazi Common.
What color, Jason?
That's going to narrow it down a lot. It's white.
Oust.
No. That's very obvious. You're going to feel like such a dumb idiot because it's not an obvious card, but it is one that you play.
Does it have level up?
No, it's Oh, yeah, the 2/6 or whatever had level up as a common. Never mind. It does not have level up.
So it's a white common from Rise of the
It's a-
Eldrazi? Is that what
Yeah, man. Sure is.
trying to remember cards from back before I started playing is tricky.
Perimeter
Remembering
captain.
cards after that.
Corbin, you have this in an EDH deck.
Perimeter captain.
No. I don't like how you emphasize the word rim either. Okay. Perimeter on captain is uncommon and is worth less than this on some of the websites.
Said common. You're telling me I play this in an EDH deck?
Oh.
Yes.
Does it have rebound?
No. It's a creature.
The white?
Yeah, it's a white creature.
Is it Soul's Attendant?
No. It's not obvious. You're going to feel like such an idiot because you have this in a deck.
I have this in a deck.
Stalwart Shield Bearers, baby. It's in your Arcades deck.
Oh my gosh, that's not even my deck, Jason. That's not even a deck.
You've played it. You've played it on
yeah,
stream.
it's like 87 cards, man.
You've played it on stream. So you cheated on
I
our stream?
know. Yes.
So the people
we found out then.
The people who
we
go
found
to
out live
twitch.tv/Brainstorm Brewery get to see you play an 87 card deck.
We found out together it was an 87 card deck when I had no basics to fetch for.
Of all the things to be missing.
I thought somebody sold me a complete deck. It turns out it wasn't. Sure, man. Stalwart Shield Bearers, is that what you gave me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, man.
It's $1 retail.
Good to know, actually.
Yep. There's no way these aren't in bulk at every LGS.
All right. Well, all right, Chris, did you want to jump in on this one?
I can give a shot at it. I'm willing to bet that this has probably been mentioned at some point, but I've been assured that it probably hasn't been mentioned this year.
Anybody who's listened to this podcast that hasn't gone to patreon.com/BSB and given us $20 a month, they won't have access to the spreadsheet, so they'll have no idea how long it's been since anyone called us, so I wouldn't worry about it. But
excellent.
If someone did do that and go to Patreon, became a patron, and they could look at the past couple years spreadsheets and they could call you out. So if that was something someone was interested in, they're not going to be better at Magic, but you could be good at catching him doing a thing that he's never done before. So that can make you feel good about yourself.
Yep. Perfect.
You could buy a win.
With that setup, go ahead, Chris.
All right. So we have from Dragons of Tarkir a blue uncommon.
Dragons of Tarkir was the third set with the Collected Company in it. Okay. A blue uncommon.
Is it a dragon?
It is not a dragon. Sort of.
Is it Silumgar's Scorn?
No.
Is Silumgar's Scorn that same rarity?
I think that was an uncommon. It's the one that's counterspell, except it's force spike unless you reveal a dragon.
Yeah, you said it was dragon. Like you were like, it's like Dragon-y.
That
and
is
I was
Dragon-y.
like, yeah,
that is also Dragon-y. You're probably going to be upset at me for saying that it's Dragon-y, but I think I'd stand by that.
Okay.
I feel like everything
Jason?
blue uncommon from this set got reprinted at some point.
I honestly can't even.
I would have guessed like
trying to
Living
remember what the
Lore,
blue...
and then I remembered Living Lore got a reprint. So it's not. There's like.
I'm trying to remember what there even is for blue. I do not remember much of that.
It is not a card that I would have remembered, and I drafted that set a ton.
Is it? Are you talking about its only printing?
I believe this was the only printing. Let me double check.
Is it the?
Yes, this is the only
is
printing.
it the unblockable dude?
It is. It is Gudul Lurker.
Oh!
A salamander. That is
Nice.
sort of, kind of like a dragon.
In what way?
It's Eureka card. That's what that thing is.
Yeah, specifically kind of interesting because we also have a new in the upcoming set.
Satoru
Ninjutsu Commander.
Omizawa.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, are you going to be putting any Blight Seals into play, Chris, with that one?
I'm interested to see what they give me to play around with in Standard.
In Standard.
Because 3 mana 2/4 doesn't die to a lot of common removal. We will see.
It's
I'm
an
willing to
interesting. I mean, look, it's not much of a sneaky ninja ability, I guess, but it's a cool card.
You could pair it with
It's a very loud ninja.
you could
Yeah.
pair it with Grazilax. So they're damned if they block, damned if they don't block.
Also makes yes. I mean, speaking of standard though, Chris, you're somebody who, by in a similar boat to me, by virtue of your profession, you have to care about standard, even though most Magic players these days don't seem to. But also, look, you play a lot of Arena. You're pretty clued into to sort of what's going on with all of that, as well as with Alchemy. So, what is? I mean, for those who don't know, Alchemy is Hearthstone. I mean, it's just Magic Arena, but they can add cards, they can nerf cards, rebalance cards online. It's just straight up online Magic that has no tie into standard. It's its own thing. But standard does still exist. So Chris, I mean, how is Alchemy hit, I guess, when it comes to what you've seen in the community and your streams and that the reaction?
So Alchemy has been so far pretty strongly received, and I'm willing to give most of the credit to that for the fact that Standard is a whole lot of copies of Alrund's Epiphany, and Alchemy is a very big lifeboat in which, hey, Alrund's Epiphany got very, very nerfed. Do you want to play a format that doesn't have Alrund's Epiphany? Do you want to play a format where the scariest pile of dragons is an aggro deck that plays a 1/1 on turn 2, and if you kill it, their deck does nothing? Hey, hop on board.
I mean, there you go. I guess I know there's a bunch of, and this is something we're not experts on, but I know there's a bunch of talk about how they're handling the wild cards with this system and the fact that you can't draft any of the Alchemy cards. They're similar to the Masters releases or whatever you want to call them, anthology releases on Arena, where you have to just burn wild cards. Is the Arena economy sort of as bad, in your opinion, as Magic Twitter would have you believe? Or are there some tricks to sort of managing it? Or just kind of what's your take on that side of the entire sort of discourse around Arena?
Do you think a lot of the
Right.
resentment is the fact that people can't cash back out like they could with Moto? So like it almost doesn't matter if your cards retain value or even go up in theoretical coin value if they can't get that money back out. How do you feel
I don't
about it?
know. I am the kind of person who essentially moved over to Magic Arena, and I think I still have like a couple hundred unopened packs of the original Modern Horizons on my MTGO account that I just...
Nice.
They're sitting there. So I'm not one to be pretty vindictive about lost value, but I think that one of the important things to consider whenever having a conversation about Arena and the economy is that, much like Magic in general, Arena is a client that has a lot of different people who play it in a lot of different ways. And a lot of the discussion that happens, especially in social media where there's not a lot of nuance going around, is that different people's complaints are often a result of their playstyle and how they engage with the client. So myself, for example, I don't do a ton of drafting. I just mostly stream playing ranked ladder that's totally free, and I spend a lot of time playing the same decks with very minimal changes. So I end up with a lot of gold that I don't spend on anything, but other folks who want to have a full collection have totally different ways that they're engaging with the economy and totally different pressure points, versus the people who really enjoy draft tend to talk about how either the drafting experience is super expensive if they're winning 50% of the time, or are going around talking about how they don't see how anybody has problems with the economy because they're running around drafting all day, winning 70%, getting free entry back, and every card in the entire client is free for them.
Yeah, that tends to be, that's why I always have a hard time with this, because that's how I interact with Arena, is I just draft. And I don't play so much that I'm grinding matches in Mythic to prove how good I am at draft or whatever. I play enough that I get to gold or platinum every month, which means I keep a pretty high win rate because you're playing at really low ranks. So for me, it has been pretty easy to build a collection. But, the month or so that I did nothing but play Constructed when I was working on Merfolk and Historic, I had a different experience in that you're right. It just creates entirely different pressure points. So it seems like everyone converges on, oh, the economy sucks. But you're right. A lot of nuance and the different ways of it get lost there.
Right. And I think one of the biggest discrepancies between individuals and discussions on the arena economy is that Arena kind of punishes you for building decks that would in other formats be budget. If you want to play with jank cards, that's where Arena gets really expensive. And if you want to just build one deck, jank or competitive or not, and kind of just iterate on that one pet deck, then Arena's going to be really affordable. And so I've noticed that the folks who I have seen tending to raise the most noise about the arena economy tend to be the individuals who want to play or have access to every different deck. And I do think that is probably where Arena is currently least serving its clientele.
Yeah. Well, certainly. Yeah. Also because the thing is, if you are somebody who wants to have, whether you're doing it for content creation or you just are somebody who wants to build jank decks or whatever, that also probably means you're not much you're probably spending your time doing that in Constructed rather than drafting. So you're even less likely. So it kind of compounds, right? Because you're not the way you want to interact with the game does not give you the tools to do it that way. Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting discussion on a higher level than, refund people wild cards are sort of some of the low-hanging fruit that, we can all agree that Wizards is just never going to appease everybody and people have complaints and it doesn't get taken care of. And it's just kind of the deal, right? I don't know what we can expect from them.
Right. There are a lot of different individual topics underneath the whole economy umbrella that you can point to. Things like, if a card gets rebalanced, we should get wild cards for it. Or cards in these supplemental sets should have lower average rarities. Or in my case, it would be super cool if they made more cards mythic because I'm sitting on 60 mythic wild cards and 2 rare wild cards.
Yeah.
But each of those individual topics is... It's a subsection of a whole. It's like a balance knob that can be tweaked. Any one of those things would be a cool way to make an impact on the whole of the economy, but without the broader context of how every aspect of the economy ties together to create the ability for, at the end of the day, someone to either play a bunch of different decks or 3 decks or 1 deck, it's 6 of one, half dozen of another, and any random selection of ways to make the economy more affordable would kind of have the same impact.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of different knobs they could turn, but they seem to be thus far unwilling to really turn any of them. What I think is so interesting about this is because this is, we're talking about sort of the economy of Magic Online, and that is Magic Finance, but it's not the kind we typically do on this podcast, which, so I'm glad we have you on to talk about this, because I know, look, I don't go into the nuances of it. If I need more gems or whatever on a Magic Arena, I tend to just put money in and not think about it. So I've not really tried to grind the most efficient ways. But look, this is you're right. That all these different things you can talk about to try to maximize your value in the same way that Jason and I maximize value when we go through bulk paper cards, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat that I try to be a whale when it comes to Magic Arena, because my thought is I want to be the kind of person who they cater to, and that means I need to be the kind of person who spends money. So the economy isn't something that I necessarily interact with a ton as an individual. More often, I'm thinking about it as a content producer, because it affects, more than anything else, the sort of content people are interested in seeing. If it's expensive for them to go out and try new brews, then more people are going to be more interested in content that's about refining decks they already have or how to get better at those decks, rather than, hey, here's how to take this enchantment mythic card that does more enchantments when you play enchantments. Do you want to go out and craft 30 rare enchantments?
Yeah,
Suddenly,
that's a good point.
That's super exciting for somebody to take to a paper FNM because they can go pick up all of those
Right.
from their LGS for 78 cents, but not remotely the kind of stuff you're actually going to see attention to on Arena.
The divergence between not just digital and paper Magic at this point, but sort of Arena and everything else. Because online Magic at this point also includes Commander Stream. You know, paper Commander Streams. That's a huge piece of content creation. Even though, you know, that's online Magic. And that differs completely from Magic Online streaming, which differs from the entire way Arena and things like Alchemy and I guess Historic even work now. So lots of fragmentation.
Yeah. It's led to a lot of oddities both in the content production space and in the paper Magic card prices space, where suddenly we were already trending towards Commander driving nearly all the prices, and now Commander is no longer driving the prices. It's basically thrown every other format out the window.
Yeah, all the rules have changed in the past 10 years or so. I mean, in the time we've been making this podcast, which is going on 9 years now, right? Very, very different sort of
9?
landscape. Something like that. 10? I don't know.
That's...
You tell me. You're the BSB historian.
Am I? I wasn't even here in the beginning, man. You're the only one that was on episode 1.
That's a good point.
I'm the new guy.
Anyway, well, shout out to JJ, our editor, by the way. Editing, I don't know, his 100th, 200th, or some 100th episode. It was a big milestone for him recently. So make sure to give JJ a shout out if you're in the Discord. Thank him for putting up with the absolute crud we send him every week and say, make a podcast out of this. But speaking of that, it is time for... I don't like that intro.
Oh, was it too smooth for you?
Mm-hmm.
Was it not predicated on a terrible pun? Listen, while you're figuring out how to transition us to the rest of the podcast, maybe I should do my new segment. Who gave Jason a beer? I would like to normalize you trying to have a parasocial relationship with me by giving me a beer to drink. And since this is Brainstorm Brewery, I drink a beer every week, whatever. So what happens is I spend my own money on these beers, and I don't like doing that. So what I've decided to do is I will shout out a person, or I guess a business. I don't really care.
Jason will sell his soul cheap for sure. Get your business in here.
I mean, if Microsoft wants me to say the name Microsoft on this podcast by giving me a beer, I will say Microsoft. But I want to emphasize that even though I said Microsoft for free 5 times now, they didn't give me a beer. So I'm not saying I'm going to go buy an iPhone. I'm just saying. So patron and listener Seaburn Visser pointed out this week that he gave me a 2021 Bourbon County that I'm not going to drink for 5 more years. And is it fair for me not to say his name on this podcast when I won't drink his beer for 5 more years? Will this still be a podcast in 5 years? It will.
From the vault.
Yeah.
Beer.
Yeah. So instead of retroactively shouting him out in 5 years.
From the vault beer shout outs.
Thank you for the BOCO, which I'm going to put on my beer rack and leave for 5 years. So a few other people have asked for my address. I assume that I'm being sent beer and not severed human penises.
You got to watch with some of those people in Discord. They'll send you manifestos.
If you send me a severed human penis, I will say your name on the podcast. But in a different tone, in a way that implies I don't approve of what you did. So
is your name the people who took Theon Greyjoy? Like, who does? Why was that your go-to there?
You couldn't remember the name of the guy who took Theon Greyjoy?
Who's the guy who cut off Theon Greyjoy's dick?
Oh man, I don't remember.
Exactly. Thank you.
He went like this. He wiggled it, which was funny. But it wasn't his dick. It was a sausage. But he was pretending it was his dick. It's a funny
it was
thing.
Ramsey
Bolton.
Yeah. I remember when that show was good. Anyway.
Remember when that
moving on.
actor was on that Marvel Eternal show that lasted for like 3 episodes? Anyway. So thank you, Seaburn, for the Boko. It was a very nice gift, and I will drink it in 5 years, and I will shout you out again, probably. Yeah, that's what happened. You get 2 shout-outs if you buy me an expensive beer. So, hey, send me a beer.
You have a Jason, here's what you need to write their name on the beer, like with a physical Sharpie on a piece of paper, and tape it to the beer.
I need to do that.
Do you have an alternative way to pretend that you're going to remember their names?
I love how you think I'm going to have a backlog here. You think I'm going to do 52 of these segments a year, and I would love that if you were right.
I know a couple people have reached out about sending you some beer. I'm trying to protect the shout out 5 years from now. That's all.
Oh, you're saying when I crack this Boko. I'll remember. It's the only 2021 I have.
You'll remember who sent it to you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, I believe you. Check the tape in 5 years, everybody.
You know what? If Seabird, if you want to give me a Boko every year, then
then it's just get the shout out once a year. Get his own day.
No way, man.
Get
We
their
hung
own
out. I
episode.
took him to a hockey themed bar that he seemed charmed by. So like that was a good time. So
All right.
I will absolutely, for the cost of one beer, validate your desire to have a parasocial relationship with at least one member of this podcast. DJ, maybe you could give him some ligaments. Give him the ligaments from your knee, because otherwise they're going to take him from a cadaver. Probably. I don't know how that works. I assume
The only options. He needs a donor.
is it.
He needs a ligament donor.
Do they do MCL donation? I actually don't know.
Do they MCL transplants?
Yeah, is it a cadaver, or did they like stitch it up? What do you do to a ligament? I don't know. I never went to medical school, but what I do
You're
know,
right, Jay. The only options are must come from a cadaver.
well, your butthole's elastic. Do you think they take a strip
Okay.
of your butthole and put that in your leg? I don't know, Corbin. Wouldn't a rubber band just be better than a ligament? Always, right?
I cannot answer that question.
I just assumed that you have torn some knee ligaments in your
No.
in your tenure as a
I
basketball
have
professional.
No. I have an immune system.
Yep. But we're not immune to this segment taking so long. So with me tanking the whole podcast right when the finish line is in view, why don't you take us to the segment I know you're dying to take us to?
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
But for pick of the week, I'm going to go Modern Horizons 2.
Really? Me too. Cool.
Wrist, the Hunger Tide.
Ooh. That is
So-
starting to get played in some weird places, man. That's really popping up some weird places.
It's just a weird card, right? And it's an extremely unique card. Wrist, of course, is the Planeswalker, but if it's not on the battlefield, it's a 1/1 insect creature, so you do creature-related things with this card, which is then a Planeswalker, which, by the way, also costs 3 mana. Anyways, the card's bottomed out. It was $5 after, it came out of the gates about 10, dropped down to about 5, bottomed out. It's up to 6. I don't know whether it's a $10 card or a $20 card or a $30 card, depends on whether it sees some more commander play or finds more of a home in Modern. It's kind of got a spot in a few places. But look, this card's just really unique and got a lot going for it. And at the very least, it seems bottomed out. So it's $6. Look at your grist.
It's worth mentioning that they said Modern Horizons 2 is going to be a printed demand thing, kind of like Jumpstart. So there's going to be $100 boxes of MH2.
That is one of the questions
on Amazon for ever. But if there's a $100 box with a $100 Ragavan in it, I don't know. Modern Horizons 2 is just a monster of a set. Once it does go out of print, which it should eventually, there's some stuff in this set that's just ridiculous. Urza Saga, it was a mistake. Ragavan was a mistake. There are mistakes in this set. There are cards that are just too dumb. One card that's at its all-time low and just just up like 5% from its all-time low. So this is the time where I think if not now, then at least when Kamigawa Neil Stephenson's Neuromancer, the set comes out. If not now, at least then, all the stuff from MH2 is going to just come up from its bottom. There's so much stuff in the set that's just, the price has been flat, and as soon as people move on, the stuff's going, it's just going to go up. I like Dauthi Voidwalker at its current just below $10. Its all-time high was a ridiculous near $40, and then everybody calmed down a little. It's basically $1 above its all-time low of like $8. So yeah, you could have bought in cheaper, but like I wanted to see it go up, right? Don't catch a falling knife. I paid $1 per copy more than I was going to, but I have the knowledge that like it was never going to get cheaper. So I feel good about Dauthi Voidwalker under $10. There's a borderless version too. There's no wrong version of Dauthi Voidwalker to buy right now. And God, it's even cheaper. It's $10 on Card Kingdom. It's under $7 on TCG Player right now. So
Card's very good.
Well, the Modern Horizons 2, you almost can't go wrong. Right? This is probably the all-time bottom for the Sentinel, for Yavimaya, for like all the elementals, for Sword of Hearth and Home. I think you just look at MH2 as a set. Don't write that down on the spreadsheet because I'm not DJ. I'm not picking a whole set. But also, people are like, well, when's the bottom? Now's the bottom. Not being able to draft and then stop drafting a set abruptly, like we did pre-COVID. We don't have as clear signals of when stuff is at its bottom. I think Ignoble Hierarch is too cheap, right? I think Dauthi Voidwalker is too cheap. And I think in a year when Dauthi Voidwalker is $22, everyone's going to say, oh, I should have bought in. Or when did this get expensive? There's some stuff that like I think is a good spec and then it doesn't happen for 2 years. And I'm like, I guess I was wrong. And then it does go up and I'm like, guess I was wrong twice. I don't want to be wrong twice about Dauthi Voidwalker. So if you like a especially non-mythic rare, but also a mythic from Modern Horizons 2, this stuff is starting to creep up a little bit, and it's not going to go back down.
All right, there you go. Okay, Chris, did you want to jump in with one?
Yes, I think. I have not had as much experience with speculating on Magic cards.
He heard me talk for 10 minutes, and he's like, I don't have that much to say about this card.
It is, there are so many ways to approach this. Just for full disclosure, for anybody listening, maybe you're new to the podcast in 2022. If so, welcome. It's not just about, I think you're going to make a bunch of money on this card in the next month. That's not what this is about. Sometimes it's about, this is just a card I like that I think you should keep an eye on, or this is a card that I don't think is going to get cheaper, or it's just something that it's worth calling attention to. So with that said, there's not a lot of pressure here. Don't hype it up. Yeah.
Most of our listeners don't buy cards to sell them. Most of our listeners play Magic the Gathering, which is a thing I used to do. If we can tell somebody to buy a card that's going to be $25 in a month, buy it now for $20, then they made $20 on a playset, which they can go to our Patreon and get this handsome drinking glass that I'm going to use to drink the beer you're going to send me.
Well, in that case, there is a metric I used to like to use whenever it came to standard cards to try to pick stuff up before it spiked and locked me out of a deck back when I was a very new Magic player who could afford maybe $150 for a deck.
Been there.
And that was to compare the MTGO ticket prices of cards to the regular price and which tended to trend up faster. And so in this case, I have Curse of Disturbance from Commander 2021. That is a 9-ticket card on MTGO and is a $2.50 card on TCG and paper. Now, it's a lot harder to find on MTGO because of the way they release commander sets on there.
Right.
But a card that has that much demand and is in a supplemental box set that doesn't have as high a supply, it might not be soon, but it's the kind of card that people want to play and will end up being a lot more expensive once the liquidity on the markets actually dries up.
Yeah, what's interesting about this card is that it was cheap, and then it went up, I guess, with whatever the curses were last year. But since then, it's settled back down, and it absolutely looks like a card that, in paper, we talk about second spikes a lot. Jason goes into it quite a bit, but the basic premise is that once a card is already sort of spiked once, and in this case, it went from sort of bulk to a couple dollars. Mm-hmm. That pulls a lot of the copies out of the market because all the it's free money copies are gone.
If it's 15 cents at your LGS and it's like $3 on TCG Player, people have a way of ferreting those cheap copies out, and then they never go back to those dollar binders.
Right, that's right. So now, you've got a card that is trending up on MTGO that is very strong in paper, and odds are there's going to be something else to push curses again in Magic, and then you have a card set to spike hard the second time. That's a good metric. I mean, look, none of us super closely follow the prices of Magic Online, but I imagine that in the past there was a lot of information to be gained there.
It tended to reflect the first couple of weeks of Standard a lot more closely than actual paper prices.
Yeah.
So when it came to stuff like finding out, hey, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, probably not a $9 card.
Yeah.
The MTGO prices and the daily change in the MTGO prices tended to be a lot quicker and better indication of that than TCG market data.
I wonder how much of that would hold true today, because one, a lot of that happens on Arena. I don't know how much Standard's getting played on MTGO. I'm sure it's a non-zero amount, but also just the fact that I don't know if anyone is ever going to play Standard in paper again.
Right. So in this case, most of the play of Curse of Disturbance comes from Commander players, which is the kind of demand that actually does see reflection in paper right now.
Yeah.
The only question that I'm still a little uncertain of, having not spent too much time playing Commander on MTGO, is how much of an impact the availability of those cards are, where my understanding is they almost entirely come from treasure chests.
Yeah, it's something like that. Although, we should mention while we're here, Wizards announced recently that they are handing off Magic Online to a third-party developer who will become responsible for running, updating, etc. Magic Online. They're taking that out. They're basically spinning that off as a product. It's, I guess, too profitable or has its place. They're not getting rid of it, but they don't want it to be. It doesn't seem to be part of their core, Wizards of the Coast, sort of brands, in the sense that the way everything else is. They're spinning it off, and it's being managed by an outside team, just like Arena is managed by its own team. So it'll be interesting to see what that means moving forward. One of the things they announced is that they are interested in improving the multiplayer experience on Magic Online. So you might see a lot of Commander being played on there in the future.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me as the appropriate niche, with Arena looking to have absolutely no possibility of a 4-player free-for-all client anytime soon.
Right. Yeah, that seems fairly unlikely on Arena. And it, at the end of the day, Arena's a mobile game, and Commander probably not going to work very well on a mobile setup. But does work on Magic Online to an extent. I mean, maybe they can do something to make it better on there. I do not love playing on Magic Online by any means. I honestly would rather play paper webcam Commander than I would Magic Online Commander, but I guess we'll see what they can do to change that.
Yeah. The growth of webcam Commander over the last 2.5 years will be interesting to see in the long term, looking back, how that winds up affecting what MTGO's niche was for a while.
True. Yeah. I mean, look, I actually don't think that. I think that paper gameplay streams and YouTube content, sort of led by the game nights and I Hate Your Deck and that level of production, I think that's kind of just going to be a staple. And I think that the popularity of that directly translates to people watching webcam games on stream.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that even, as we come out of the pandemic over the next few years, I actually don't see webcam commander going away.
Yeah. And as long as that's normalized, I think that Discords and communities dedicated to organizing pickup commander games, kind of championed by, I think, was it Channel Fireball that tried to do like a digital-only Grand Prix?
Uh-huh.
The more that becomes normalized, the more accessible it becomes for people to just have that be the way they play, which probably good for paper prices too.
True. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. All right, well, this was a great talk. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you again, Chris, for coming on. One more time, tell people where they can find you across the internet and where they can find your stream.
I can be found on Twitter at @CBotelloMagic, on YouTube at Chris Botelho, and at Chris Botelho on Twitch as well, where I stream most weekdays.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for listening on behalf of Jason and I and DJ in his bum knee, wherever he is. Thank you for everything over 2021. We are into 2022. We've got big plans for this year. We're looking forward to it. We thank you for coming along for the ride. We'll see you next week.